tying this back to Chrono Trigger. This is the Mammon machine. This is, you know, are you going to completely use AI, or are you going to use it responsibly and, for the benefit of many, kind of thing?
It's confusing in the world of games because we have used the word AI for 20 years or longer to talk about how the NPCs, the enemies and stuff move. Like, we used to talk about the Half-Life 2 enemy AI. Like, how did the Combine interact with each other in a battle? That has nothing to do with LLMs. It is not even close to the same thing. Welcome back to the Side Quest Sages podcast. My name is Luke Tatum. I am the Sage of 1080p.
Oh, wow. Hey, I'm Corey Sins, and I'm the Sage of TIE Fighters.
Ooh, dang. Okay. Well, hey, now you can't pull that out next time for your next one. We'll have to plan better for the next one. Welcome back, everybody. We are going to talk about AI today. I know that is kind of a topic that everyone is sick of hearing about, but it's like 4 out of 5 news articles are about AI these days, and I used AI to verify that statistic. I'm just kidding. So we got to talk about it because video games are an art form Corey and I care about. Maybe if you're watching this channel, or mayhap you're subscribed to it, maybe you care about video games too. And so this is a thing that I'm interested in, that I care about, that I have partnered with throughout my life to kind of shape my values and all these things. Like I have a long history with games, and we were thinking about some things to talk about for a few episodes while we get ready to do Golden Sun for our next guided playthrough kind of thing. So I thought, well, let's talk about AI, because you'll see these posts on social media and you'll see these tech demos from these billion-dollar corporations, and you'll see all of this stuff, and especially layoff news, big game studios lay off 10,000 people or whatever because AI is just making us so much more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. You all know what I'm talking about. If you pay any attention to game news at all, you know what I'm talking about. And so the question becomes, at a certain point, do we need artists? Do we need coders? Do we need game script writers? Do we need the human input at all? Because can't we simply plug it all into an AI model and get the AI model to spit out a beautiful, well-written, perfectly honed narrative with beautiful gameplay and amazing cinematic effects and whatever? Can't we just type in a prompt like all the ads tell us and get an amazing game at the end? And if we're not there yet, when will we get there? Are we going to get there? Those kind of questions. So that's sort of what I want to explore together today. And we've done extremely minimal conversation about this prior. So I have an example I think we'll get into. But Corey, I mean, just out of the gate, do you have any initial thoughts on this? Like, what's your gut?
I think before I kind of go on what my feelings are on AI, let's talk about what AI is, and especially what is AI in terms of game development, looking like. So the way I understand AI is that it's an LLM, a large language model. It is doing predictive text. It's we say certain things in a certain sentence structure, and it's taking that pattern and it's predicting what's going to come next. It's looking for these patterns in other, archives and things like that, and trying to see, what is the likelihood that this is going to be something that's going to be pertinent for this request that I have been given.
Yeah.
And to go a little bit further, not just with language, it's going to do the same thing with 3D elements, whether that means you're generating a rock. There's a person, an NPC moving. They are going to talk. They're going to be dynamic in some aspect, aside from AI. But when AI is involved, that's what it's thinking. It's what is the likelihood that there's going to be a building, or what is a heath field look like? It's going to start to generate these different scenes, locations, themes, based on predictive probability. So that's
Right.
I think that's where we kind of start from. It's not what we might hear of like Skynet, where it's it's developing its own robots to conquer humans. That comes much later on. Later on. So, but I
Well,
think that's a good spot to kind of jump off from, is that we have that base of what it is for games. What does that look like? How is it being used?
yeah, yeah. And I think that, everyone's trying to do this in different ways and seeing what sticks to some extent. There's a very negative public reaction to the use of AI and stuff. Famously, here in the past several months, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 won all these awards. I mean, they swept award shows, they swept the VGAs last year and everything. And then it was discovered that like a couple of filler textures that they had used, like I believe newspapers that were on like a telephone pole type of thing or a light pole. They had like made this texture with AI and they hadn't gone back and made a real texture to put on there. And so people got upset, and like some award they had won as an indie game got pulled and revoked because they had used AI and all this stuff. And so like people get pretty upset about it. But it's very inconsistent across different conversations and different ways that we might approach this. Okay, you used, whatever, any of the various AI models to make a newspaper plastered on a surface texture, and you use that in your game, and then you kind of forgot about it. Like, you have to think how many textures are in a game. Probably a lot. So you forgot a few. Whatever. That's maybe a slightly different thing than saying, I typed in a prompt and that's the game. Right. The whole thing is generated from a prompt. Now, the example that I thought we might start with, I got you to watch a 2-minute little video from last year. So this is not new news, but Microsoft made this Quake 2 demo, what they called a Quake 2 demo, and it runs out of their Copilot AI. You can play it in a web browser if you, for some reason, would want to do this. And so it's kind of sort of like playing Quake 2, except that it isn't running the Quake 2 engine. It's not running, an executable file on your computer. It's an AI model that has been exposed to God knows how many hundreds of hours or thousands of hours of footage of Quake 2, and it tries to generate frame by frame, generative AI style images of what it might look like if you were playing Quake 2, but you're not. And so this is kind of an interesting situation where maybe somebody who doesn't play games but wants to invest money in companies that make games and get a higher rate of return might look at that and say, "Oh my God, we're changing the game. Microsoft is going to be the greatest game developer on the planet." And they use that to, this little clip for 20 seconds of this generative AI. They're like, "Oh my God, I got to shove more money at Microsoft." But anybody who's played Quake 2, I know you haven't because I asked you right before we started, but it's not. That is not Quake 2. Like it can't keep up with where the enemies are, whether or not enemies even exist. Like stuff like that. It's like, oh, I was shooting at that guy and then he just isn't there. It's not a
turned your back
game.
And it was like gone. He almost kind of looked like the combatants were ghosts almost.
Yeah,
half there,
it's
half there.
bad. But you can find lots and lots of footage of people playing it, and it's like, what? I mean, there's a video of a guy just standing there shooting at an enemy for forever. Like he doesn't move, so it doesn't have to make a new image. He just keeps shooting, and like his gun shows that it's firing, and the enemy just doesn't respond and doesn't get damaged, and like it just on and on and on. It's like, okay, I guess that's cool, but. And if you go to the elevator to go to the next level, it'll just display the word loading like it's gonna, because it's been trained on images of the loading screen, but it doesn't load anything because it doesn't know what the next level is because it's a demo. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it
Mhm.
doesn't work. And so, but this has been pointed to as, the death knell of traditional game environments, or traditional game development, excuse me. And I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it. But maybe you
I
do.
so I had a different perspective. I went and watched that video with not having played any of the games like that. And without very much context, I knew that it was AI generated. That was about
Yeah.
it. And I just started watching it. There wasn't any commentary or anything at the beginning. Just was looked like, 98 to 2002 era. And I actually enjoyed it. I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. I definitely saw the problems with it. It was hollow. There wasn't much going on. But the fact is that this might be something, a tool for someone in their garage, their basement,
Mm.
to bring back a piece of their childhood and develop it in a way that they wanted to, with low barriers to entry. It wasn't until I got to the end that there was the streaming of comments of, AI slop this, and this is garbage. And one person, and I actually want to read this, wrote, "This is insane. Imagine what they could do next to simulate characters in story-based games while branching dialogue that's never the same for each player. Crazy." And I'm like, having a unique experience, that sounds awful. But
Well,
um, I think this particular, sandbox is probably really interesting, more so for people who are into third person shooters. That doesn't require quite as much, you know, story lore and things like that. Some people just want to shoot in exciting environments, I guess.
well, boomer shooters, right? I mean, that's like the genre now. It's
Yeah,
Doom and Wolfenstein 3D and the old games. Who needs a plot? Let's go. I mean, Half Life to some extent revolutionized that and made you sit on a tram for 5 minutes before you even start playing the game, or before you can do anything independently. But you that was very much a response to the corridor monster closet, find the red key card to open the red door, find the blue key card to open the blue door, etc., etc. Rinse repeat, fight stronger and stronger demons, fight mecha Hitler, whatever. That formula that id Software kind of presented, you know that was the thing. And for anyone who doesn't know, Doom was installed on more systems than Windows 95 or Windows 3.1. I can't remember which one, but it was a more popular piece of software than Windows for a while. you know, so
perfect.
what do you do with
Love
that?
that.
People obviously like that, but the to your point too. I mean, Doom modding and stuff. I mean, was an enormous thing back then, and that is part of the reason that a lot of people got into game development, and a lot of those people ended up being recruited by companies like Valve. That was a big part of their success. If we want to get into that history a little bit, hey, you guys are really good at making Quake mods and Doom mods and stuff. Why don't you come work for us? Make a real game from scratch, right? But I know that the future is changing, and I know that things are always looking different. There was a big trend on Twitter the other day. This is maybe a few months ago now. And the idea was this kind of like pixely looking fantasy RPG. Imagine like a first person, like a Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind type of game where it was like everything was kind of had this pixel graphics to it. So like Morrowind, but not 3D models, pixelated
Okay.
style. And you're walking off towards this castle in the distance, and it kind of had lots of layering done to give you a sense of distance and all that. It's pretty cool. And man, that millions and millions, probably tens of millions of views on this video. It got shared everywhere. And it's like, this is the kind of game I want. And lo and behold, a lot of people started to make that game, or their take on what that could be. But that original video was an AI thing. And it's like, well, but my game looks like that. You don't need an AI model to do that. I already got that game. But I want to return to your point because I see maybe a potential issue, and I'm an issue guy. Like you give me some cool idea, I'm going to say, well, yeah, but what about this? That's what I do. Okay. But emergent, dynamic, responsive, dialogue trees or even just free form dialogue like with NPCs in a game. Pretend we're playing Skyrim. Now they did this with Fortnite, I think. They put Darth Vader in Fortnite and you can talk to him about anything, and that ended very badly and he was a super racist and stuff. But because you could just bait him into trying to talk about whatever you want, right? Because it's dynamic. So but I can see that being like kind of an issue. You know what I mean? The amount of stuff that you need an individual NPC to be aware of in order to have a dialogue with you, but also not
narrative.
know too much. Like, hey, I need to solve this quest. What do you think? Should I do this or this? Like the computer knows, you know what I mean? So can you just solve everything by asking a random townsperson in the first area, like you see what I'm saying? Doesn't that seem like a problem?
You're right. I get that. And yeah, like I was just saying too, is just that you'd have not had made a cohesive story.
Right.
And there's so many different, branches out. You can't, at least not now, account for all of that, but that would be kind of fun to just play a complete sandbox game where it's based on you. Like you said, it probably will devolve into Darth Vader being, who he is, I think, who he became.
You're just lumping everything into general moral badness category. I see what you're doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think you touched on something that reminded me. I'm a very visual person. I might have mentioned that before.
Yeah.
I could not read some books, so like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, for instance. I had to see the movies. I had to see those worlds to imagine them. And in this respect, this is a low barrier for people to see what is possible. Just like you said, with the different designs, the different. What if we did this? This isn't something that would be commercial success because it looks bad, or this is a weird, goofy, cringy, storyline or character or things like that. And I think those little pieces of imperfections are what is going to separate the complete AI generated things from the human touch. Yeah. I don't think AI is going to be separate from gaming. It's going to be, it's like you said, it's already involved. To what degree it will change?
Let me I guess jump back in with this too, because the Larian Studios, the Baldur's Gate 3, Divinity, Original Sin 1 and 2, Divinity series guys, Larian, they came under fire briefly. Again, social media outrage, right? Like pick a day of the week. There's something people are pissed about. Good morning. What are we mad about today? And so that's social media today, right? Because outrage fuels likes and shares and stuff. And so Sven, the CEO, he made some comments saying like, yeah, we're absolutely going to use AI to rapidly consider ideas. I don't have the quote in front of me, but like to iterate and to say, what if we did this? Like what if you throw some words together, drop it into an AI that spits out an image, and it's like, that's a pretty cool idea for a castle. What if we did this and we connected this here and we, made this quest we're working on come from this area, or whatever. I don't really see the harm in that. I'm not like super duper anti AI. Like I wish RAM was cheaper and right. all that, right? But I don't see that there is no purpose. I mean, scientific research being benefited from AI is extremely cool. Like, that's very great. I like it when people get a chance to live longer and we get to save money and develop more, technologies to help people in a real way. Okay. But the I do not see a problem with that, because Sven, the Larian guy, he said very clearly, like, we are not using it for final shippable products. We're not making the game with AI. We're just we use it in the very, very pre-alpha earliest stages to kind of get ideas and throw things around and try stuff out quickly. It helps them, rapidly iterate and then go, this is the direction, so the artists can actually work on it. The coders can actually work on the thing they actually want to do. But in a concepting way, I don't see a problem with that. I do see a problem with these companies that can only consider their bottom line profit, and they don't care. Like, Microsoft does not care. I hate to break it to you. Like, if you work for Microsoft, they don't care about you. They want to make money. That is the goal. And if they look at labor is your highest controllable expense. You will hear HR people say this. You will hear, any sufficiently advanced business person, they will say it's the highest controllable expense, or largest controllable expense. Meaning, if things are going a little rough and you need to make more money this quarter, fire some people, give them fewer hours, right? That's what they do. And Microsoft has certainly done that, closing tons and tons of studios, firing lots and lots of people, wave after wave after wave of layoff. And they're kind of all in, and they're not the only ones on, we're just going to make games with AI, as many people as we can remove from the process. I am against that. You know what I mean? And it's not just because I'm a bleeding heart and because I feel bad that people are losing their jobs. Like, I do feel bad, but that's not why I'm saying this. It's because the product is inferior.
Right.
It's not only not going to make a better game, but it's also on top of that going to get people fired and, whatever. It's a derivative off of things that have already been made. And the Quake thing is certainly, it's literally just an amalgamation of footage of somebody playing the real game. So, that's an extreme example,
Plato's cave, kind of in a way, almost. But I think tying this back to Chrono Trigger, this is the Mammon machine. This is, are you going to completely use AI, or are you going to use it responsibly and for the benefit of many, kind of thing? It's just a tool. How are you going to use that tool? And based on a lot of the comments on people with how they feel about AI, they feel that it's evil, and it may be that it's evil in their hands.
Sure.
Potentially. Sure. Not maybe I won't even say evil, just it's whatever tool is in their hands. If they want it to be a gun, if they want it to be a hammer, if they want it to be a Band-Aid, whatever kind of thing, a microscope, a narrative translator, or can it be a bot to fraud people? Can it be, I developed this game, it's awesome, and then it puts a virus in your computer. There's so many different ways, and I just explained great ways, evil ways that will change what the landscape looks like. And so if we can we can use our dollars to vote for the world we want to see. So if we don't like those AI games, don't pay for those AI games.
Exactly.
It's really easy.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I don't think that all AI games are going to be bad. Try them out. They're going to be doing some crazy things that may on the offset look like a game that has never been or should have been developed. And then you play it and you're like, wow, this is, I've never seen anything like this. I'm super excited for what the world of gaming has. So,
well, me too. I mean, and I think that's a good point. Using your Mammon machine kind of metaphor there, the Mammon machine itself, right? It's producing magic. It allows people to use magic, and it generates power, and it powers the whole kingdom. Go watch our Chrono Trigger series if you are interested in this at all. You have no idea what we're talking about, but
Yeah.
we did a whole guided playthrough. The whole game is 12 whole episodes. It's like 14 hours, and so if you really like listen to us talk, that's a good way to do that. But the Mammon machine also has this corrupting influence, right? And we see that most acutely in the queen, but also in all the other people in the society where they become sort of,
Mhm.
you know, haughty and superior to their, people underneath. I just finished playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, the first of the Re trilogy, and there's like the wealthy people live on the top of the city and the slums are below, so it's literally like an undercity kind of thing, which we've seen done in other games, KOTOR and whatnot. But the first game I can think of that did that is Chrono Trigger, where you have the high society living in the clouds and the earthlings living below, the earthbound ones. And so it's just interesting how many, how many times you kind of see these sorts of same themes and stuff. But I think the concern that I'm trying to, in a very roundabout way, get back to is how much easier it is to use AI a little bit more next time,
Oh,
right?
sure.
If you pay for this big corporate account to, have your indie team of 15 people use AI in game development, how much do you actually know, like as a game director, how much the team is using AI? Like you can't know because you can't look at 15 people's every action all the time, right? And so it becomes a knowledge problem, and it becomes like well, I don't really want to do that. That seems like a lot of work. Let me just go over here, right? And maybe they won't notice. And it is just, I think you lose some of that handcrafted artistry in some way, but it's up to the individual to navigate that. It's not to say that you shouldn't use it at all. It's just, it's tough to know when to stop. And it Aristotle, right? We are what we repeatedly do. So
Right.
the more you use it, the more you will.
What?
But anyway, I think that's basically where I wanted to go with that conversation and the things that I wanted to put out there. You have anything else that you would like to tackle on this subject? I think we'll keep it a lighter
Yeah.
episode this time.
Yeah. So I think let's I have a couple of ideas of games that might have benefited from AI.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and this is a game I know you've had. I have not played. I've seen it. It looks beautiful, but it was Hollow, No Man's Sky.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So wrote a couple notes on this. So you've got the procedural generation already
Ooh.
down there, but it could have been helped out to be a little bit more of a variety and things like that. But it could help with like the NPC interactions, the emergent storytelling, and things like that. That's that's one place. Skyrim. Many of the NPCs over time just they it's whatever they had left. I mean that's something where it could make them more dynamic. That would be something that's interesting.
Hey, have you heard the latest rumor?
Even better than that you've become the Dragonborn, and you just start. Oh, I heard you're the. I heard there's the what was it the Thieves Guild has been operating. Just like those little.
Oh my gosh, they're
I
so bad
didn't
sometimes.
play Valhalla, but I had a problem with Assassin's Creed Odyssey starting to get a little bit monotonous and things like that. They had so much, and I loved that they did so much of Greece and Odyssey, and I started to feel like that wasn't a Assassin's Creed game, and my brother kind of confirmed that Valhalla was not what I'd be
I know.
looking for. So I just ended up not playing that one. So
I hated it.
the
I
like the
hated
mission
it.
variation is something that was really important to my brother, and that so Civilization, the AI is terrible.
Well, and
It's
this
it's hard to Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's confusing in the world of games because we have used the word AI for 20 years or longer to talk about how the NPCs, the enemies and stuff move. Like, we used to talk about the Half-Life 2 enemy AI. Like, how did the Combine interact with each other in a battle? That has nothing to do with LLMs. It is not even close to the same
Right.
thing. This is a pre-coded, predetermined set of behaviors, and it's like using math to figure out, should it run away, should it get closer to you, should it throw a grenade, should it play this voice clip. Has nothing to do with this. And so to people that are not our age or that are younger than us, it's like, what are we even talking about? It's this jumbled mess of language. Like, what are you even saying when you say the word AI?
Right.
So that doesn't help. But I mean, to your point, if I can jump back on the No Man's Sky thing for just a second. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
please.
that game does not shine on when it comes to NPC interactions, but I don't know that I necessarily want that. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
there is a story. The story is pretty well told. Like, it's not told to the extent that like a modern AAA game would be. It's not, there's no beautiful anime cutscenes or something, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, it is there, it is meaningful in its way, and the game is kind of a different thing. I feel like it's a different game if we have all of this emergent, like the Radiant AI, and again, I'm using the word AI in a different way, but the Radiant AI in Oblivion was like a huge deal, right? Because all these NPCs will go up to each other and talk about what's going on in the world, and they'll continue to give you quest after quest after quest forever, especially Skyrim kind of took that and ran with it. You can literally never run out of quests in Skyrim. Now, they are extremely boring.
Yeah.
The Radiant AI quest, or, I heard that this guy needs 5 carrots. Will you take them there?
Yeah.
Whatever. And it's like, that's just an MMO right there. It's just the most boring, lazy MMO quest you can imagine on repeat forever.
Sure.
But could it be better than that? Maybe. Again, it's how do you use the tool? Ubisoft just wants to push another game out the door. Microsoft, they just want to push another game out the door.
Right.
They don't care. They're not trying to make art to some extent. Somebody on the team is, somebody in the game studio, but their dreams are dashed on the rocks of Microsoft. And it's just so sad. It's so sad to see, man. Like, but yeah, I mean, I don't need that in No Man's Sky. They just added Pokemon battles to No Man's Sky. I mean, what? They're doing fine. They pushed out a freaking 90 free updates since it launched. I'm fine with that. They can keep going.
Um, we were talking about Chrono Trigger. That would be a game that would not been benefited from. Dark Souls, I think, is another one that I was thinking of. That is, it's its own unique personality because of how it is, and it's not telling a story in the same way. It's telling it through the interactions that you have with bosses. It actually teaches your bosses similar, at least Chrono Trigger in a similar fashion, where you have to guess and check kind of thing, and you learn things as you go. So I think maybe gatekeeping is what's needed. Is you need to establish what we think are as game players, what is acceptable for us. I'm not a huge battler for textures and things like that, taking jobs away necessarily from artists.
Right.
What are artists? What are coders? They will be the ones who are going to be the subject matter experts. They will know what is right. This is a good form. This is bad code. I have a lot of coder buddies who do use Claude.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know very much about coding myself. I've done HTML myself. That's about it. That was so long ago. Yeah, but they have the wherewithal to know what is expected, what they need to have, what the output should be, they are going to be able to look at it and say, this is what's wrong, this is what's right, let's change this, and still have that human element, but still be augmented. So it's like putting on a mech suit and still going out there, in a way. Your artist brush has 1,000 brushes now, and kind of thing. But that's just my take. I know it's a really sensitive topic for people who have spent a lot of time developing their craft and things like that. And that doesn't take away, because their craft is still there. I think there's still a real need for artists, for coders, for you name it. There's still going to be uses for them. It's just their jobs are going to look different.
Sure.
They aren't, sure. They're just going to be different operating, but they're functionally the same. So I hope people start to see that, because there's real need for, alarm, but not in the way that they are doing it. It's more of, we don't want to lose ourselves in the machine. And right now, when we put all of our eggs in that basket, we are going to have Ubisoft and Microsoft shotgun all these games out there, and they may be financial successes, because there are so many people out there that will just pay for easy dopamine, things like that.
Sure.
So
as long as it works, they're going to keep doing it.
Right.
They're going to see how far they can take it. And I'm glad you brought up Dark Souls. I have not played any of them to completion. I've played Elden Ring the most, and I've only played it for like 3 hours. Okay. The ability, or the non-ability to pause, is a very, very, very high barrier for me to play these games.
Right.
But I'm really glad that you brought that up, because it's famous for environmental storytelling. It's a minimalist approach in some way, to telling a story. The item descriptions kind of flesh out the world a lot. And at least that's what I've heard. I've watched content about Dark Souls, but I haven't played it. And that, I think that the megacorp kind of mentality is more content equals more playtime equals more perceived value equals more revenue, right? And so that's kind of the thing that has informed the most recent Assassin's Creeds and the most recent, any franchise, insert name of franchise, Call of Duty, the Activision Blizzard kind of stuff. And that's a whole side tangent, because they've done horrible, lazy stuff with AI there. But that is the kind of mentality, and it's, more content equals better. And I don't think that a Dark Souls game is enhanced in any way. It is a detractor to just shovel more content into that game. Again, not having played it, but I get the necessary kind of like artistic control over each element. The fact that only this exists in the game tells a story, right? To throw more in there is to water down and dilute and mess up the progression that exists.
Yeah.
And so, don't do that. Do not put an AI model on the first NPC that can explain the whole game to you, right? But anyway, this is a good conversation. I'm glad we kind of fleshed this out a little bit. You helped me kind of evolve my thinking a little bit, and I think this is good. So let us know what you guys think. If we missed something huge and obvious, or if there's some example that we should have brought up, maybe we'll revisit this topic again in the future. And if you'd like, go stop by our Patreon page over at patreon.com/sidequestsages. You can join that absolutely for free and participate in our polls and see some free content that we post over there, like about the Chrono Trigger soundtrack and things like that. But if you're a paid member at any level, you'll get all of these episodes ad-free, because they're not on YouTube, and you will get them as soon as I'm done editing, rather than having to wait for our regular release day. So I had a blast, Corey. Thank you for the time. And let's see. I have an outro script somewhere. We talk about this, and then I don't prepare. But remember to find meaning in stories everywhere you look. And no matter what you are going through in life, don't give up.